The Republic cruiser was already dying when Superman saw it. Engines gutting themselves in blossoms of plasma fire, hull splitting along stress fractures as Coruscant's gravity well dragged it down toward the industrial sectors. 4,000 souls aboard, maybe 90 seconds before impact. He didn't think, didn't calculate atmospheric entry angles or structural integrity coefficients. He just moved. The sonic boom shattered every window in a 12-block radius. Clones on patrol ducked instinctively, hands flying to blaster rifles, searching for the separatist fighter that had just broken the sound barrier at ground level. They found nothing, just a red and blue blur ascending like a reverse meteor, impossibly fast, impossibly there. Superman hit the cruiser's starboard side at Mach 4, arms spread wide, and the entire ship stopped. Not slowed. Stopped. Inertia died against his chest. Metal groaned but didn't crumple. He adjusted his grip, fingers dimpling Durasteel hull plating, and began lowering the vessel toward the nearest open platform. A Jedi temple landing pad, as luck or irony would have it. Inside the Council spire, Mace Windu felt it first. A disturbance, but not in the Force. Around it, like reality flinching. "Masters," he said quietly, rising from his meditation. "Something is wrong." Yoda's ears twitched, his eyes opened, ancient and unreadable. "Feel it, I do. Familiar, it is not." On the landing pad, Superman set the cruiser down with the gentleness of a parent lowering a sleeping child. Hydraulics that should have screamed under the weight barely hissed. He stepped back, floating, without repulses, without the telltale shimmer of Force levitation, and watched as emergency hatches blew outward. Clones poured out first, weapons raised, scanning for threats, then crew. Then Jedi, 3 of them, green-skinned Myrilans, lightsabers ignited and eyes locked on the figure hovering 10 meters above the deck. "Identify yourself," the lead Jedi commanded, her voice sharp with adrenaline and confusion. Clark opened his mouth to answer, and then the others arrived. The flash phased through the temple's outer wall in a crackle of yellow lightning, matter parting around him like water, impossible physics made casual. He stopped beside Superman, vibrating at a frequency that made him appear as a living smear of motion. "Everyone okay?" I counted 4,017 heartbeats, all elevated but stable, no critical injuries. Though there's a Rhodian in Section C with a compound fracture that really needs. "Barry," Batman said, his voice cutting through the speedster's ramble like a vibro blade. He stood on the pad's edge, cape settling around armored shoulders, cowl rendering his face a study in shadows and judgment. Behind him, Wonder Woman descended with the grace of ancient myths, sword and shield maglocked to her back, but her stance promising violence if necessary. Green Lantern's ring cast emerald light across the permacrete, constructing a scanning array that swept the cruiser for structural damage. Aquaman and Cyborg materialized from the dimensional rift that still pulsed like a wound in reality 50 meters above the temple. A tear in space-time that bled colors no language in this galaxy had words for. The Jedi stared. The clones stared. Across Coruscant, every Force sensitive within a kilometer radius stopped what they were doing and felt the wrongness. Not darkness, not light, just other. Mace Windu emerged from the temple entrance at the head of a full council contingent. His hand rested on his lightsaber hilt, not ignited but ready, and his expression carried the weight of a man who'd spent 3 years at war and had just encountered something his training never prepared him for. "You will lower yourselves to the ground," he said, voice resonant with command and underlaid with the Force, a subtle push, a encouraged compliance. "You will deactivate your weapons. You will explain how you breached Coruscant's orbital defenses and what you've done with the infiltration team that sabotaged that vessel." Superman descended slowly, boots touching permacrete with a soft click. The Force push slid off him like water off Durasteel. He didn't even seem to notice it. "We didn't breach anything. We don't know what an infiltration team is, and we're not your enemies." "That is not your determination to make," Mace replied. His fingers tightened on his lightsaber. Around him, a dozen Jedi formed a loose perimeter, blades unlit but hands ready. Batman's eyes narrowed behind his cowl. His gauntlet flickered, holographic displays only he could see, fed by sensors in his suit that were already slicing into Coruscant's holonet infrastructure, downloading planetary databases, military encryptions, communications protocols. 87 seconds. That's all it took to understand the shape of this galaxy's nightmare. A republic stretched across thousands of systems, choking on its own bureaucracy. A Jedi Order serving as generals in a war they didn't start and couldn't end. An enemy called separatists with grievances that weren't entirely unjustified. And clones, bred specifically for combat, their agency stolen before they drew their first breath. "We saved those people," Wonder Woman said, her voice carrying the weight of divine authority. "Your gratitude is noted by its absence." "Gratitude does not preclude caution," a new voice croaked. Yoda hobbled forward, leaning on his Geimer stick, eyes sharp despite their age. "Appeared you have, from nowhere. Powers you possess, unknown they are. Trust, it must be earned." Cyborg's optical sensors swept the assembled Jedi, analyzing their biosignatures, their technology, the strange energy field that permeated everything here. His internal mother box interface hummed with curiosity and alarm in equal measure. "They're not reading as hostile," he murmured to Batman, "but they're scared, really scared." "They should be," Batman replied, voice low enough that only the League could hear. "They're fighting a war on a dozen fronts with an army of slaves, and they've convinced themselves it's heroism." Superman's jaw tightened. His X-ray vision had already confirmed what Batman's hacking revealed. The clones had devices in their heads, inhibitor chips, control mechanisms. The Jedi either didn't know or didn't care. "We need to talk," he said to Mace. "Somewhere private, about what's actually happening in this galaxy." "You will submit to our authority first," Mace countered. Clark's eyes flared red. Just for a second, heat vision warming the air between them. A warning shot measured in degrees Celsius rather than violence. "No," he said simply. "We won't." The Jedi's blades ignited as one, a chorus of snap hiss that would have been intimidating to anyone who hadn't stared down Darkseid. The League didn't move, didn't attack, just stood there, 7 beings radiating power that made the Force itself seem to hesitate. And in the Senate building, 5 kilometers away, Sheev Palpatine felt the shift in the galaxy's trajectory. He smiled, thin and satisfied, and began making arrangements. Chaos, after all, was opportunity wearing a different mask. If you want to see what happens when unstoppable force meets an unmovable war, hit subscribe and tell us in the comments Which hero should challenge the Sith first? May the Force be with you. The standoff held for exactly 3 seconds before Anakin Skywalker shoved through the Jedi line, mechanical hand clenched into a fist, exhaustion and frustration bleeding off him like radiation. Enough, he snarled. We just lost 800 troops on Christophsis. The Senate's about to cut funding for the Outer Rim campaigns, and you're wasting time on jurisdictional bullshit? He jabbed a finger at Superman. You caught a falling ship. That makes you useful. Useful gets a conversation. Mace, stand down. Mace's expression could have cut Beskar, but he deactivated his blade. The others followed suit, reluctant, wary. This conversation, he said coldly, will happen in a council chamber, under guard, and it will include answers. Batman's cape shifted as he turned toward the temple entrance. Then let's not waste time. The council chamber smelled wrong. Superman noticed it first. The air carried traces of ozone and ancient stone, meditation incense and something deeper, older, like the galaxy's history had soaked into the walls and learned to breathe. 12 seats arranged in a circle, 7 occupied. 5 empty, their masters presumably dying on distant battlefields in a war that had already lasted too long. The League stood in the center, refusing the chairs offered to them. Batman had insisted. Never accept the position your interrogator offers. Control the space or lose the conversation. Mace Windu occupied the seat directly across from them, flanked by Yoda and Ki-Adi-Mundi. Obi-Wan Kenobi stood near the viewport, arms crossed, watching with the studied patience of a man who'd negotiated with separatist leaders and Hutt crime lords and knew when to wait for someone to hang themselves with their own words. Anakin lurked by the door, supposedly guarding it, but his attention never left Superman. Your names, Mace said. Not a question, a demand. Clark Kent, Bruce Wayne, Diana Prince, Barry Allen, Hal Jordan, Arthur Curry, Victor Stone. Superman rattled them off without hesitation. We're from Earth, a planet that doesn't exist in your star charts because we're not from your reality. Something tore open space-time and dropped us here 3 hours ago. We're still figuring out what happened. Yoda's ears twitched. Earth. Know this place, the Force does not. Strange this is. Dangerous. The Force? Flash asked, tilting his head. His metabolism was still adjusting to this universe's physical laws, his cells screaming for food he didn't have, his speed trying to compensate for cosmic constants that felt slightly off. That's the energy field you guys manipulate, right? I've been analyzing it since we arrived. It's everywhere, permeates everything, binds matter together on a quantum level, but also responds to consciousness and intent, which shouldn't be possible unless... Barry, Batman said quietly. Flash stopped talking. Ki-Adi-Mundi leaned forward, his elongated skull catching the chamber's ambient light. You claim to be from another reality, yet you breathe our air, walk under our gravity, speak our language. Or rather, your technology translates it instantly. Convenient. Cyborg's optical implant flickered. Your holonet uses a galactic basic standard derived from old Coruscanti root languages with approximately 14,000 dialects across known space. My mother box interface compiled a translation matrix in 47 seconds. It's not magic, it's processing power. Mother box? Obi-Wan's voice carried genuine curiosity. I'm unfamiliar with the technology. You wouldn't be, Cyborg replied. It's sentient, alive, and it's not from this universe either. The temperature in the room dropped 3 degrees. Not literally, but every Jedi felt it. A shift in the Force, a wrongness that made their instincts scream warnings they couldn't articulate. Sentient technology that wasn't a droid. Beings with power that bypassed the Force entirely. A Kryptonian whose cells absorbed solar radiation and converted it to abilities that made him functionally invincible. An Amazonian whose existence violated their understanding of how the Force interacted with life and death. A speedster who phased through matter using something that wasn't the Force but looked disturbingly similar. We examined the cruiser you caught, Mace said, pulling a datapad from his robes. The explosion that crippled it came from sabotage. Thermal charges placed in the reactor core by someone with intimate knowledge of Republic vessel architecture. 3 suspects were identified fleeing the scene. We assumed you were part of their cell. You assumed wrong, Wonder Woman said, her voice carrying the cadence of ancient Greek warriors, tempered by centuries of diplomacy. We saw people about to die. We acted. Where we come from, that's not suspicious. It's expected. Where you come from, Yoda echoed, his gaze distant, unfocused. See it, I cannot. Cloud the future, you do. Stand outside destiny, you do. Troubling this is. Batman's jaw tightened behind his cowl. Prophecy, destiny, fate. The same nonsense that let tyrants justify atrocities and heroes abdicate responsibility. Your order serves as military commanders, he said, pivoting the conversation before the metaphysical philosophy spiral could begin. You lead clone armies into battle, soldiers created specifically for war, purchased from a corporation, distributed to Republic officers like equipment. The silence that followed was sharp enough to cut. The clones volunteered, Anakin said from the doorway, his voice defensive in the way of a man repeating something he needed to believe. They were bred for combat, yeah, but they chose to serve. Did they? Batman's white lenses fixed on him. Or did you just decide their choice didn't matter because it was convenient? Anakin's hand dropped to his lightsaber. You don't know anything about them, about what they sacrifice. I've fought beside them, bled with them. They're the best soldiers in the galaxy. They're slaves, Superman said quietly. The word landed like a thermal detonator. Purpose-bred. Sold, owned. The fact that you've romanticized it doesn't change what it is. Obi-Wan straightened, his expression hardening. The clones are citizens of the Republic. They receive compensation, medical care, and can earn commendations for they have inhibitor chips in their brains, Cyborg interrupted. His voice was flat, clinical, but his human eye betrayed anger. Organic control devices wired directly into their cerebral cortexes. I scanned 3 of them on the landing pad. The chips suppress individuality, enforce obedience, and can be remotely activated to override free will entirely. You want to tell me again how they volunteered? The Jedi Council stared at him. Not with shock, with denial. That's impossible, Ki-Adi-Mundi said. The Kaminoans would never... The Kaminoans did whatever they were paid to do, Batman said. I've accessed your Republic Senate records. The clone army contract was financed through an emergency appropriations bill that bypassed normal oversight. The Kaminoans were given total autonomy over the clones' biology, and the Jedi never questioned it because you needed soldiers, and they arrived gift-wrapped. Mace's hands clenched on the armrests of his chair. You hacked Republic military databases? That's an act of espionage, of war. That's due diligence, Batman countered. We woke up in the middle of a conflict we don't understand, surrounded by factions we can't trust, and you expected us to take your word that everything's fine. I don't work that way. Green Lantern's ring flared, casting emerald shadows across the chamber. Look, we didn't come here to fight you. We don't even want to be here. But if you think we're going to stand by while what? May stood, his presence filling the room like a thunderhead. While we fight to preserve the Republic, while we defend trillions of beings from separatist aggression, you arrive with powers we cannot explain, technology we cannot verify, and claim moral authority over a war you've witnessed for all of 3 hours. You are not our judges. Then who is? Wonder Woman's hand drifted toward her sword hilt. You serve a government drowning in corruption, command an army of enslaved men, and call yourselves peacekeepers while burning worlds to ash. Where I come from, that's called hypocrisy. Anakin's lightsaber ignited, a blue blade that hummed with barely restrained fury. You don't get to lecture us. You don't know what we've lost, what we've sacrificed. Superman moved, not attacked, just moved. A fraction of his speed, a whisper of his power, and he was between Anakin and Wonder Woman, one hand raised in a placating gesture. We're not your enemies, he said again, and his voice carried the weight of Kansas sunrises and metropolis skylines, of a man who'd learned that power without compassion was just another word for tyranny. But we're not your weapons either. The door to the council chamber hissed open. A clone commander stepped through, armor marked with the insignia of the Coruscant Guard, his posture rigid with military discipline. Masters, the Chancellor requests an audience with the visitors. He's authorized full Senate oversight for the duration of their presence on Coruscant. Yoda's eyes narrowed. Chancellor Palpatine. Interested in them, he is. Batman's jaw tightened. His gauntlet's sensors had already flagged anomalies in the Senate's data networks, encrypted communications that shouldn't exist, financial transfers to shell corporations, connections to both Republic and Separatist leadership that formed a pattern only visible if you knew how to look. And at the center of it all, a name, Palpatine. We'll meet him, Clark said before Batman could object. But not alone, and not unarmed. Mace's expression was carved from stone. That was not a request. The Chancellor's office occupied the apex of the Senate building like a crown on a dying king. Floor-to-ceiling transparent steel overlooked Coruscant's sprawl, a city planet where billions of lives pulsed in layers of desperation and decadence, where the light from speeders and advertising holograms never quite reached the depths. Palpatine stood at the window, hands clasped behind his back, the picture of grandfatherly concern wrapped in executive authority. Extraordinary, he said without turning as the League entered. 4 clone guards flanked the door, rifles held at parade rest, but eyes tracking every movement. Truly extraordinary. The Jedi Council spoke of beings who defy their understanding of the Force. I confess I doubted their assessment. The Council has become prone to exaggeration in recent years. Batman's cowl concealed his expression, but his posture radiated suspicion. The office was too clean, too carefully arranged, every piece of art, every sculpture, positioned to convey trustworthiness and wisdom. It was a performance, and Batman had spent a lifetime learning to recognize when someone was selling a lie. Chancellor Palpatine, Superman said, inclining his head slightly. Polite, not deferential. We appreciate you taking the time to meet with us. Palpatine turned and his smile was warm enough to melt permafrost. How could I not? You saved 4,000 lives today. Republic lives. In times like these, such heroism deserves recognition, not interrogation. The word carried just enough reproach to imply the Jedi had overstepped. Please sit. None of them sat. We don't plan to stay long, Wonder Woman said. Her hand rested near her lasso, a habit born from centuries of dealing with men who smiled while plotting murder. We're trying to understand this galaxy, its conflicts, its factions. The Jedi paint one picture. We suspect the truth is more complicated. The truth is always complicated, Palpatine agreed, moving to his desk with the careful steps of elderly frailty that somehow never quite seemed genuine. The Jedi are noble beings, devoted to peace, but they are also dogmatic, and dogma breeds inflexibility. The Separatist alliance rose not from pure malice, but from legitimate grievances: corporate exploitation, Senate corruption, taxation without meaningful representation. He sighed, the sound of a man bearing the weight of impossible choices. I've tried, for years, to find a diplomatic solution, but Count Dooku and his allies chose violence. Now we defend ourselves, or die. With a slave army, Cyborg said flatly. The temperature in the room dropped. The clone guards shifted, barely perceptible, but Batman caught it. Fingers tightening on rifles, pupils dilating. Fair response masked as discipline. Palpatine's expression never changed. The clones are citizens of the Republic. They serve with honor and receive full legal protections under... They have control chips in their heads. Cyborg interrupted, his voice rising. Biometric implants wired directly into their brain stems. I didn't just scan them, I interfaced with Kamino's medical databases. Protocol chips, the Kaminoans called them, designed to ensure obedience and behavioral conditioning. The clones aren't soldiers. They're puppets. One of the guards, his helmet marked with the numerical designation CT-9844, went rigid. His rifle trembled, just slightly. Palpatine's smile didn't falter, but something flickered behind his eyes. Calculation, recalibration. I'm afraid you've been misinformed. The chips you reference serve a medical purpose. Clones suffer from aggressive tendencies, genetic flaws inherited from their template. The chips stabilize their neural chemistry, prevent violence against allies. Surely you don't suggest we remove safety measures designed to protect both the clones and those they serve alongside? I suggest, Batman said, stepping forward, that any device capable of overriding free will is a weapon, not a safety measure. And I suggest, Palpatine countered, his voice hardening by a fraction, that you are guests in our galaxy, not legislators, not military commanders. Whatever authority you held in your reality does not transfer here. Flash vibrated slightly, his molecules oscillating at a frequency that made him blur the edges. His metabolism was screaming for food, his nerves jangling with the wrongness of this place. But his mind, his beautiful, terrible, too-fast mind, had been running calculations since they'd arrived. The chips have a remote activation protocol, he said suddenly, blurted it out before Batman could stop him. I've been analyzing local EM frequencies. There's a command signal embedded in Republic military comms, encrypted, dormant, but present. Someone could activate every chip simultaneously if they wanted. Turn 4 million soldiers into 4 million killers in under a second. The silence that followed was absolute. CT-9844 took a step back. His rifle rose. Not aimed at the League, but not at parade rest either. His breathing came faster, audible through his helmet's vocabulator. "Sir," he said to Palpatine, and his voice cracked. "Sir, is that true?" "Stand down, Commander," Palpatine said, and the words carried weight that had nothing to do with volume. Authority, command, the unspoken threat of consequences. These individuals are attempting to sow discord, to undermine the Republic's ability to defend itself. Are we? Green Lantern's ring flared, and suddenly the room was bathed in emerald light. Construct schematics materialized in the air, rotating three-dimensional models of inhibitor chips, their circuitry laid bare. The remote activation subroutines highlighted in pulsing red. Because this looks pretty damning to me. Aquaman had been silent until now, standing near the viewport, watching the city below, with the expression of a man who'd ruled an underwater kingdom and knew how empires rotted from within. "I've seen this before," he said quietly. "Different world, different methods, same result. You create an army you can control absolutely. Tell yourself it's necessary, justify it with threats real or imagined. And then one day you wake up and realize you've become the very thing you claim to fight." "Atlantis fell to treachery," Palpatine said, and there was something in his voice now, something cold and sharp beneath the grandfatherly veneer. "As did Rome, as did the old Republic 12,000 years ago. The galaxy remembers what happens when idealism outweighs pragmatism. We survive or we perish. There is no third option." Wonder Woman's eyes narrowed. "There is always a third option. It's called integrity." "Integrity," Palpatine repeated. And now he smiled, a thin, knife-edge expression that didn't reach his eyes. "Tell me, Princess Diana of Themyscira. Yes, I've reviewed what little data my intelligence services could compile on you. Does your integrity feed the refugees fleeing separatist invasions? Does it rebuild worlds burned by droid armies? Or does it simply make you feel superior while billions suffer?" Diana's hand closed around her lasso. The golden rope hummed with divine power, with truth so fundamental that lies withered in its presence. Spoken like a man who's forgotten what truth costs. "I know exactly what truth costs," Palpatine said. "I've paid that price for 30 years in this office. Every compromise, every calculated sacrifice, I've made choices that haunt me, yes. But they were necessary, and I will make them again if it means preserving the Republic." Batman moved, 3 steps forward, cape billowing like a storm front. He leaned across Palpatine's desk, gauntleted hands flat against the polished surface, white lenses boring into the Chancellor's face. "You're lying." Palpatine didn't blink, didn't flinch, just met Batman's gaze with the patient tolerance of a predator humoring prey. "Prove it." "I will." The door hissed open. Mas Ameda, the Chancellor's Chagrian aide, stepped through, his expression radiating bureaucratic disapproval. "Chancellor, the Senate Security Committee has convened an emergency session. They're demanding testimony regarding the unauthorized presence of foreign operatives on Coruscant. The Jedi Council has declined to take custody." "Of course they have," Palpatine said smoothly, straightening his robes. "Very well. Thank you, Maz." He turned back to the League and his smile returned. warm, regretful, the mask settling back into place. It seems our conversation must be postponed. I trust you'll make yourselves available for the committee's inquiries. Purely voluntary, of course, but cooperation would demonstrate good faith. We're done here, Superman said, his voice flat. He turned toward the door and the others fell in behind him, a unified front, a wall of power that made the clone guards instinctively step aside. As they filed out, CT-9844 spoke again. Quietly, almost a whisper. Is it true? The chips? Cyborg paused, turned. His human eye met the clone's visor. Yeah, it's true. And if you want proof, find a medical droid you trust. Have it scan your brain. Section 4, subsection 7, right behind the anterior cortex. You'll see it. The guard said nothing, but his rifle lowered. In the Chancellor's office, Palpatine stood alone, watching the League disappear into Coruscant's gleaming corridors. His smile faded. His eyes darkened, and he reached for his personal comm unit with the careful deliberation of a man executing a contingency plan he'd refined for decades. Lord Tyrannus, he said when the encrypted connection established. We have a problem, a significant one. Accelerate the timeline. Order 66 may need to be implemented ahead of schedule. On the other end of the line, Count Dooku's response was immediate. Understood, my master. The message arrived at 0300, encrypted on a frequency Frank hadn't used in years. A Republic Special Forces emergency channel that should have been decommissioned when the Empire rose. The fact that someone knew to contact him on it meant they'd done their homework. The fact that they'd bothered meant they wanted something. Frank decrypted the transmission in the dim light of his safe house. Weapons within reach, exit routes mapped in his mind. The message was short. 3 words and a location. Vader is coming. Docking Bay 7. No signature, no identification, just a warning that turned Frank's blood to ice. Darth Vader, the Emperor's fist, the monster who'd hunted the Jedi to extinction, who drowned the galaxy in darkness, who killed with a thought and felt nothing. Frank had known this day might come. Had accepted that his war would eventually draw attention from forces beyond his ability to fight. But knowing and experiencing were different things, and the reality of Vader's approach settled on his shoulders like a physical weight. He had maybe hours, maybe less. Frank gathered his essential equipment, weapons, ammunition, medical supplies, the datapad containing his list, and left the safe house for the last time. Whatever happened next, he wouldn't be returning. The ghost of Nar Shaddaa needed to become a ghost in truth, disappearing into the moon's endless depths before the Empire's deadliest weapon arrived to claim him. Docking Bay 7 was in the industrial sector, a forgotten corner of Nar Shaddaa, where broken ships came to die and broken people came to disappear. Frank approached through the maintenance tunnels, moving silent as shadow, every sense alert for ambush. The bay was empty except for a single figure standing beneath the flickering lights. The third sister. Frank's hand moved to his blaster, but he didn't draw. She could have killed him a dozen times by now if that was her intention. Instead, she stood motionless, watching him approach with those terrible yellow eyes. "You sent the message," Frank said. It wasn't a question. "I sent the message." Her voice was different than before. Less cold, more uncertain. "Vader arrives within 6 hours. He's coming for you personally." "Why warn me?" "Because I'm not ready for you to die." The third sister took a step closer, and Frank saw something in her face he hadn't expected. Conflict, pain, the ghost of whoever she'd been before the Empire broke her. You interest me, Castle. You're not Force-sensitive, but you burn brighter than most who are. When I look at you through the Force, I see purpose, the kind of purpose that changes things. I'm not here to change things. I'm here to kill war criminals. And in doing so, you've exposed cracks in the Empire's foundation. The rehabilitation program was supposed to be invisible. Convenient war criminals given convenient pardons, their sins erased by bureaucratic magic. You've made it visible, made people ask questions, made them wonder how many monsters wear Imperial uniforms. Frank studied her, trying to read the truth beneath the words. She was an inquisitor, trained to deceive, to manipulate, to serve the dark side's endless hunger. But there was something else there. Something broken that recognized its own reflection. What do you want from me? I want you to survive. The third sister's hands clenched at her sides. Vader will tear this moon apart to find you. He'll kill anyone who's helped you, anyone who's sheltered you, anyone who's even heard your name. Unless you're gone before he arrives. You could report my location, earn favor with your master. I could. Her jaw tightened. But I'm tired of earning favor through betrayal. Tired of being a weapon pointed at everyone except the ones who deserve it. Frank recognized the tone. He'd heard it in his own voice years ago, when he'd first realized that the Republic he'd fought for had become something monstrous. The moment when loyalty cracked and truth flooded through. You're thinking about running, he said. I'm thinking about a lot of things. The third sister looked away, her profile sharp against the flickering lights. The Grand Inquisitor suspects my conflicted loyalties. Vader will sense it the moment he sees me. If I stay, I die. If I run, I die slower, but I die nonetheless. So run. Where? The Empire controls everything. The rebellion is scattered and weak. The Jedi are dead. Her laugh was bitter, hollow. I have nowhere to go, Castle. I'm trapped between the monster I've become and the child I used to be, and neither one knows how to survive. Frank thought about Maria, about Lisa and Frank Jr., about the man he'd been before grief and rage burned everything else away. There's someone you should meet, he said. Someone who might understand what you're going through. Who? Her name is Ahsoka Tano. She was a Jedi once. Now she's something else. Something that operates in the shadows, fighting the Empire in ways that don't involve armies and battlefields. Frank met the third sister's eyes. She offered me a partnership. I think she'd offer you the same thing. Something flickered in those yellow eyes. Hope, maybe, or fear of hope, which was often the same thing. Ahsoka Tano died during Order 66. No, she didn't. The third sister was silent for a long moment, processing. When she spoke again, her voice was barely a whisper. If I go to her, if I try to leave the Inquisitorius, Vader will hunt me forever. He doesn't forgive betrayal. He'll hunt me too. Maybe we'll be harder to catch if we're not alone. The words surprised Frank even as he said them. He'd operated alone for 7 years, trusted no one, relied on nothing but his own skills and his own rage. But something about this woman, this broken weapon of a broken empire, resonated with the parts of himself he'd thought he'd killed. They were both ghosts, both survivors of wars that had destroyed everything they loved, both searching for something that might give meaning to the wreckage of their lives. Maybe ghosts were stronger together. "I'll consider it," the third sister said finally. "But first, you need to disappear. Vader's shuttle enters the system in 5 hours. By then, you need to be somewhere he can't find you." "Any suggestions?" "The lower levels. The deep warrens where even the Empire doesn't go. There are places on this moon that haven't seen light in centuries. Forgotten infrastructure, abandoned colonies, entire communities that exist off every grid." She reached into her cloak and produced a data chip. "Coordinates, safe routes, everything I know about the moon's hidden geography." Frank took the chip, turned it over in his fingers. "Why help me?" "Really?" The third sister met his eyes, and for a moment the yellow faded, revealing something older and more wounded beneath. "Because you save children. Because you fight for something beyond yourself, even if you don't want to admit it. Because when you looked at me in that warehouse, you didn't see a monster." Her voice cracked slightly. "You saw a person. Do you know how long it's been since anyone saw me as a person?" Frank didn't answer. There was nothing to say. The third sister turned and walked toward the bay's exit, her black cloak swirling behind her. 5 hours, Castle. Then Vader arrives and everything changes. She paused at the threshold, looking back over her shoulder. "For what it's worth, I hope you survive. The galaxy needs more people willing to fight the darkness, even when the darkness seems absolute." She vanished into the shadows. Frank stood alone in the docking bay, holding a data chip that might save his life and thinking about yellow eyes that had once been another color. 3 hours later, Frank was deeper in Nar Shaddaa's infrastructure than he'd ever been. The coordinates on the chip had led him through maintenance tunnels, abandoned transit lines, and vertical shafts that descended into darkness, so complete his helmet's sensors struggled to penetrate it. Down here, the moon was different. The endless noise of the upper levels, speeders, crowd, the constant hum of commerce and crime faded to nothing. The air was stale, heavy with the weight of centuries. Occasionally, Frank passed evidence of habitation, makeshift shelters, faded graffiti, the bones of those who'd fled into the deep and never found their way out. He wasn't alone. The realization came gradually, a growing awareness of movement at the edge of perception, shadows that flickered wrong. Sounds that didn't quite echo the way they should. Someone, or several someones, was tracking him through the darkness. Frank found a defensible position, a collapsed tunnel junction with only 2 approaches, and waited. They came in silence. 6 figures, wrapped in rags and improvised armor, carrying weapons that looked ancient but well-maintained. Their leader was a Zabrak woman with filed-down horns and eyes that had adapted to the eternal night of the deep levels. "You're the ghost," she said. Not a question. "I'm the ghost. You killed Corso, freed the children." "I did." The Zabrak studied him for a long moment, her people arrayed behind her like shadows given form. "We've been watching you. Since you came to Nar Shaddaa. Since you started hunting the war criminals the Empire protects." She took a step closer. "We lost people to those men. Family, friends, people who trusted the Republic and got slaughtered for their faith. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Be effective." The Zabrak's lips curved in something that might have been a smile. "You need to disappear. Vader's coming, and even down here, his reach is long. But there are places deeper still. places where the Force itself grows thin, where even Sith have trouble seeing. You're offering to hide me? We're offering to help you. The ghost of Nar Shaddaa has become a symbol, whether you wanted it or not. People whisper your name in the dark. They paint skulls on walls where the Empire can't see. They believe that someone, somewhere, is fighting back. Frank thought about Maria, about what she would say if she could see him now, surrounded by strangers in the bowels of a criminal moon, becoming a symbol for a war he'd never intended to start. You're different when you come back, but maybe different isn't always bad. What do you want in return? He asked. We want you to keep fighting, keep hunting, keep making the Empire afraid. The Zabrak extended her hand. We can't win this war alone, neither can you, but together we might make them bleed. Frank looked at her hand, thought about Ahsoka's offer, the Third Sister's warning, the team he'd assembled for the Sanctuary assault. For 7 years, he'd been alone, convinced that isolation was strength, that trust was weakness, that the only person he could rely on was himself. But the war was bigger than one man, bigger than vengeance, bigger than a list of names on a datapad. He took her hand. Show me these deep places, he said, and tell me everything you know about the Empire's operations on this moon. The Zabrak's smile widened. Welcome to the Resistance, Ghost. Such as it is. 2 hours later, Darth Vader's shuttle descended through Nar Shaddaa's atmosphere like a blade through corrupted flesh. The Dark Lord stood at the viewport, watching the moon's endless sprawl of neon and shadow expand beneath him. Somewhere in that chaos was the man who'd been systematically dismantling the Emperor's rehabilitation program. The Ghost, the Skull. Vader, the first black site, sat in Coruscant's industrial sector, disguised as a decommissioned processing plant that recycled atmospheric scrubbers. The security was Republic military, clone troopers with the red shoulder markings of specialized units, automated turrets calibrated for anti-personnel work, scanner arrays that could detect a mouse droid at 300 meters. Professional, thorough, and completely unprepared for the Justice League. Flash went in first, phasing through the outer wall at a frequency that made molecular bonds irrelevant. His perception of time stretched so thin that the world moved like insects drowning in amber. He mapped the interior in 0.3 seconds. 47 prisoners in cells lined with force-dampening alloys, 12 guards rotating shifts, surveillance systems tied to a central hub that he disabled with a tap that occurred faster than the electrons could register the intrusion. When he stopped vibrating, the lights were already dead and the doors were opening. Superman tore through the roof, not subtly, not quietly. Just through. Durasteel peeling like foil, support beams snapping with sounds like artillery fire. He dropped into the main detention block and stood there, cape settling around him, eyes glowing red in the emergency lighting. The guards raised their rifles. He raised one hand. Don't. They fired anyway. DC-15 blaster bolts designed to punch through battle droid armor. Superman's suit, Kryptonian textile woven at the molecular level, didn't even char. The bolts splashed against his chest like rain on stone, and he didn't flinch, didn't blink, just stood there until they stopped shooting and realized they were trying to kill a god with firecrackers. Down, Batman said from behind them. He'd come through the ventilation system, silent as cancer, and now his gauntlets crackled with electrical charge. The guards went down, stunned, not dead, unconscious before their bodies hit the floor. Bruce Wayne didn't kill, not even here, not even them. Wonder Woman and Aquaman secured the perimeter, while Green Lantern's ring generated construct cages for the guards. Emerald cells that wouldn't kill, but wouldn't break. Cyborg interfaced with the facility's central computer, ripping data faster than the system could recognize the breach, his mother box translating binary into damning truth. The prisoners staggered out. Not separatist soldiers, not battle droids. Civilians. Twi'leks and Rhodians and humans and species the League didn't have names for, wearing clothes that had once been nice, now stained with blood and worse. Their eyes carried the hollow weight of beings who'd screamed until their voices broke and then kept screaming inside where no one could hear. One of them, a Togruta woman missing 2 fingers, grabbed Superman's arm with her remaining hand. Her grip was weak, desperate. "You're not clones," she whispered. "Not Jedi. Who?" "Friends," Clark said, and his voice carried the gentleness of Kansas farms and parents who taught him that power without compassion was just cruelty wearing a different mask. "Can you walk?" She nodded. They all did. Because the alternative was staying. The second sight was worse. The third made Batman's jaw clench so hard his teeth should have cracked. By the time they'd liberated all 3 locations, they'd freed 217 beings who'd been detained without trial, interrogated with methods that violated every convention the Republic claimed to uphold, and erased from official records so thoroughly that their families probably thought they were dead. Dooku hadn't lied. He just told the worst truth at the worst time. They returned to their commandeered apartment to find Anakin Skywalker waiting. He sat on the couch with his mechanical hand clenched into a fist on his knee, exhaustion bleeding from him like radiation. His Jedi robes were scorched along one shoulder, fresh combat, probably from whatever hellhole the Republic had sent him to while the League was dismantling its credibility. "The Council knows what you did," he said without preamble. "They're calling it terrorism, theft of military assets, conspiracy with separatist forces." "The prisoners weren't assets," Superman said, his voice flat. "They were people, tortured, imprisoned without charges. The Republic was holding them in violation of its own laws. The Republic is fighting a war." Anakin surged to his feet, anger and frustration and bone-deep weariness making his movements sharp, aggressive. "You think we like it? You think we want to make those choices? But every day I don't make the hard call, people die. Civilians, children, whole populations wiped out by droid armies that don't sleep, don't feel, don't stop. So yeah, we bend the rules. We do things that keep us awake at night, because the alternative is letting the galaxy burn." "You're already letting it burn," Batman said. He stood near the window, silhouetted against Coruscant's endless light, a shadow judging shadows. "You've just convinced yourself the flames are necessary." Anakin's hand dropped to his lightsaber. "You don't know anything about sacrifice, about what it costs to protect people." "Don't I?" Bruce's voice went quiet. "Dangerous. I watched my parents bleed out on a street corner when I was 8 years old. I've spent every day since trying to make sure no one else has to see what I saw. And you know what I learned? That the moment you start justifying atrocities for the greater good, you've already lost. You've become the thing you're fighting." "Easy to say when you're not the one making life or death decisions every damn day," Anakin shot back. "You swoop in, Play hero for 3 hours and act like you understand a war that's been killing us for 3 years. You don't. You can't. Wonder Woman stepped between them, her presence carrying the weight of Olympian authority and ancient warrior discipline. We understand enough. Your republic tortures prisoners, commands slave soldiers, and answers to a chancellor who's manipulating both sides of this conflict for his own gain. Palpatine is a good man, Anakin said, but his voice carried a thread of uncertainty now. He's been a mentor to me since I was 9 years old. He cares about. He's Sith. Cyborg interrupted. He stood at the terminal, holographic displays rotating around him, financial records, communication logs, DNA analysis pulled from Senate medical databases. I've been compiling evidence since we met him. His midi-chlorian count is off the charts, higher than any Jedi on the Council. His genetic markers match Sith bloodlines traced back to the Old Republic, and his communications network connects directly to Separatist leadership through 50 layers of encryption. He's not just corrupt, he's the architect. Anakin stared at the data. His face went pale. That's impossible. The Council would have sensed. The Council senses what they expect to sense, Batman said. Palpatine's been hiding in plain sight for decades, playing both sides, orchestrating a war designed to give him emergency powers, destroy the Jedi, and consolidate absolute control. And you've been his favorite student the entire time. The words hit like a physical blow. Anakin stumbled back, his mechanical hand flexing spasmodically, servos whining under stress. No, you're lying. This is separatist propaganda. Another manipulation. It's the truth, Superman said gently. I'm sorry, Anakin. I know what it's like to have someone you trust turn out to be something else entirely, but the evidence is there. Palpatine is Darth Sidious, and he's been using you, using all of you, to destroy the Republic from within. Anakin's breathing came faster. His eyes darted between the holograms, the data, the faces of beings who'd appeared from nowhere and upended everything he thought he knew. If this is real, he said finally, his voice breaking, if he's really, then the Council needs to know, immediately. We tried that, Aquaman said. They didn't listen, called our evidence circumstantial, said we were reckless. Then we make them listen, Anakin insisted. We take this to Mace, to Yoda, we show them everything. They won't act, Batman said. Not in time. Palpatine's too deeply entrenched, too protected, and the Jedi are too invested in the system to tear it down, even to save it. So what's your solution? Anakin's hand finally closed around his lightsaber hilt. Kill him? Stage a coup? Burn down the Republic and hope something better grows from the ashes? We expose him, Superman said, publicly. Broadcast the evidence across the holonet where it can't be buried or denied. Force the Senate to act. Let the people decide what happens to a leader who betrayed them. That'll start a civil war, Anakin said. Not just Republic versus Separatists. Every system, every faction, tearing itself apart over who's lying and who's telling the truth. Billions will die. Billions are dying now, Wonder Woman countered. The only difference is you've learned to ignore it. The door chimed. Flash opened it before anyone could move. Found Obi-Wan Kenobi standing there with a squad of clone troopers, his face carved from disappointment and determination. Anakin, he said quietly, step away from them. Master, the Council has issued a warrant for their detention. They're to be held pending investigation into charges of sedition, conspiracy with enemy forces, and unlawful interference in Republic military operations. Obi-Wan's hand rested on his lightsaber, but his eyes carried regret. Please, don't make this harder than it needs to be. Anakin looked between his master and the League, between everything he'd been taught and everything he'd just learned. His mechanical hand trembled. Obi-Wan, listen to me. Palpatine is... I know what they've told you, Obi-Wan interrupted. I know how convincing they can be. But they're manipulating you, Anakin. Using your frustration with the Council, your attachment to Padme, your fear of losing those you love. It's what Sith do. We're not Sith, Superman said. He took a step forward. The clones raised their rifles. We're trying to prevent a catastrophe. Palpatine is planning something. Soon, we can feel it. Then you'll explain that to the Council, Obi-Wan said. Under proper procedures, with due process. Batman's laugh was bitter, humorless. Due process in a republic that operates torture facilities and commands slave soldiers. You really don't see the irony. I see beings with power beyond measure refusing to submit to any authority but their own, Obi-Wan replied. Whatever your intentions, that makes you dangerous. The Council must... Green Lantern's ring flared. Emerald constructs erupted around the League. Not weapons, not yet, but barriers, shields. The promise of resistance if it came to that. We're not going with you, Hal said, not to be interrogated by people who've already decided we're guilty. The clone's fingers tightened on triggers. Obi-Wan's lightsaber ignited, blue blade humming in the charged air. Anakin stood frozen between them, trapped between loyalty and truth, unable to choose because choosing meant admitting he'd been wrong about something fundamental. Stand down, Superman said, and his eyes glowed red. Not threatening, warning. We don't want to fight you, but we won't let you imprison us for doing what's right. Right according to whom? Obi-Wan asked. You've been in this galaxy for less than a day. You don't understand our ways, our struggles, the sacrifices we've made to preserve peace and freedom. You are not our saviors. Then what are we? Wonder Woman drew her sword. The blade sang as it left its sheath, a sound like divine judgment made steel. Your enemies, because you're treating us like invaders when all we've done is save lives and expose corruption. The standoff held for 3 heartbeats. Then Anakin made his choice. He stepped beside the League, his lightsaber igniting in his flesh hand, blue blade angled toward his former master. I'm sorry, Obi-Wan, he said, and his voice broke. But they're right. About the black sites, about the clones, about Palpatine. I can feel it. The dark side's been there all along, and we were too blind to see it. Obi-Wan's expression shattered. Anakin, no, please. I'm done being the Jedi's attack dog, Anakin said. Done making compromises that cost me pieces of my soul. If you want to arrest them, you go through me first. The world held its breath, and then Cyborg's terminal exploded with alerts. Republic military channels lighting up, emergency broadcasts flooding the holonet, Palpatine's face appearing on every screen across Coruscant with an announcement that would reshape the galaxy. The Jedi had attempted to assassinate him. Order 66 was in effect. All Jedi were traitors to be executed on sight. The inhibitor chips activated. 4 million clones turned on their generals simultaneously. And the Clone Wars ended in the way Palpatine had planned all along, with the Jedi burning. The transmission came through on stolen separatist channels while Coruscant burned. Wonder Woman stood at the apartment's viewport, watching lightsabers ignite and die across the cityscape like fireflies winking out of existence. Jedi falling. Children murdered in the temple. Clones executing beings they'd fought beside for 3 years, their eyes empty, their movements mechanical, inhibitor chips overriding everything that made them human. Anakin had collapsed to his knees, sobbing, feeling every death through the Force like knives in his chest. Obi-Wan stood frozen in the doorway, his lightsaber fallen from nerveless fingers, his face the color of ash. The clone troopers who'd accompanied him, CT-782 and CT-9931, fought against their programming, fingers white-knuckled on rifle triggers, veins bulging in their necks as they tried not to murder their general. One of them was bleeding from his nose. The other was crying. "Get the chips out," Superman said to Cyborg. Not a request, a command. Now. Cyborg's hands moved before his conscious mind registered the order, multi-tool extending from his arm, surgical implements designed for his own maintenance repurposed for field neurosurgery. "This is going to hurt," they warned the clones. "And if I slip, I could kill you." "Do it," CT-7812 gasped. His rifle was shaking, muzzle drifting toward Obi-Wan's head despite every ounce of will screaming at his body to stop. "Please, fuck, just do it." Victor cut. Precise. Controlled. The inhibitor chip came out in 7 seconds, trailing neural tissue and blood, and the clone's entire body went limp. He dropped his rifle. Stared at his hands. Started laughing, hysterical, broken, the sound of a man realizing he'd been a puppet his entire life. The second clone took 9 seconds. When his chip hit the floor, he vomited. "We need to move," Batman said. He stood at the terminal Cyborg had abandoned, fingers flying across holographic interfaces, pulling data from Republic military networks that were too busy coordinating genocide to notice the intrusion. Palpatine's declaring martial law. The Senate's being dissolved. He's proclaiming himself emperor, and he's mobilized every clone battalion on Coruscant to hunt surviving Jedi and... His jaw tightened. Us. "Let them come," Flash said. He vibrated at a frequency that made his words hum like struck tuning forks. His metabolism was burning through calories faster than his body could compensate. Adrenaline and cosmic wrongness making his cells scream. But his mind was clear, focused. We can phase through their weapons, outrun their targeting computers. "We can't save them all," Aquaman interrupted. He stood beside Wonder Woman at the viewport, watching the temple burn, smoke rising like a funeral pyre for 1,000 years of hubris. "There are too many, too spread out. By the time we reach one, 10 more will be dead." Diana's hand tightened on her sword hilt. "Then we save who we can." The stolen transmission crackled to life again, audio only, heavily encrypted, originating from somewhere in the outer rim. Dooku's voice, filtered through digital distortion but unmistakable. "I assume you're listening, Justice League. I assume you're watching the Republic reveal its true face. Palpatine's consolidation has begun ahead of schedule. Your interference forced his hand. Congratulations, you've accelerated the Empire's birth." "Where are you?" Superman demanded, moving to the terminal, cape billowing behind him. "Irrelevant. What matters is this. While you've been playing detective on Coruscant, Zygeria has reopened its slave processing facilities. The Empire will need laborers for its construction projects, weapons platforms, shipyards, penal colonies. The Zygerians are already filling quotas. 20,000 beings in the first shipment alone. Clones marked for decommissioning. Jedi younglings who survived the Temple massacre. Civilians from systems that resisted Imperial occupation. Wonder Woman's eyes flared with Olympian rage. Where? Coordinates incoming. The facility is lightly guarded. Palpatine stretched thin trying to secure the core worlds, but it won't stay that way. If you're going to act, do it now. Prove you're more than rhetoric. The transmission cut. Numbers appeared on the display. A moon orbiting Zygeria's primary planet. Orbital period, 31 standard hours. Atmospheric composition, breathable but thin. Defenses, minimal. The data felt too convenient, too easy. It's bait, Batman said. It's also real, Cyborg countered. He'd resumed his position at the terminal, mother box interface pulling satellite imagery from separatist reconnaissance networks. The moon resolved on screen, industrial structures carved into volcanic rock, landing pads crowded with transport vessels, energy signatures consistent with containment fields. Those are slave pens, active, occupied. And if Dooku's timeline is accurate, they're loading the first transport in 6 hours. Anakin rose slowly, mechanically, his face carved from grief and fury. I know that facility. The Republic shut it down 8 months ago during an anti-slavery operation. The Zygerians surrendered, signed accords, promised to cease trafficking operations. His mechanical hand clenched. They lied. Or Palpatine let them start again. Probably both. Obi-Wan finally moved, bending to retrieve his lightsaber, the motion of a man operating on muscle memory because conscious thought had become too painful. If we go, he said quietly, we're declaring ourselves enemies of the new empire. There's no walking back from that. We were enemies the moment we refused to be weapons, Batman said. The only question is whether we're enemies with principles or just cowards with excuses. Green Lantern's ring pulsed, power levels dropping into yellow, 63% charge remaining, no way to replenish it. Every construct he created burning through reserves that couldn't be replaced. I'm in. But we need to be smart about this. Hit fast, extract faster. No heroic last stands. Agreed, Superman said. He looked at Anakin, at Obi-Wan, at the 2 clones who just had their free wills surgically restored. You don't have to come. This isn't your fight. The hell it isn't, Anakin said. His voice carried the ragged edge of a man who'd just watched his entire worldview immolate. I've been fighting Zygerian slavers since I was 9 years old. Since before the Jedi found me on Tatooine. You think I'm going to sit here while they do to others what was done to me? Obi-Wan nodded slowly. The Jedi Order is dead, or dying, but our principles, the real ones, not the compromised shadows we served, those remain. If there are younglings on that moon, we get them out. The journey took 4 hours in a stolen consular-class cruiser, hyperdrive pushed past safety limits, Navy computer jury-rigged by Cyborg to bypass Imperial tracking protocols. They dropped out of hyperspace on the moon's dark side, running silent, sensor-reflective coating activated, and descended through volcanic ash clouds that hid them from orbital detection. The facility spread below them like a scar. Prefabricated structures bolted to cooled lava flows, electrified fences surrounding processing yards where beings stood in lines. Shock collars locked around their necks. Zygerian guards in ornate armor moved between the pens, electro-whips crackling, their species' cultural obsession with dominance made manifest in every casual cruelty. Wonder Woman was the first one out. She didn't wait for the ship to land, just dropped through the still opening hatch, 50 meters straight down, and hit the ground with enough force to crack volcanic rock. Her sword cleared its sheath before the Zygerians could process the threat, and the first guard lost his whip hand at the wrist. The second lost his head. Diana of Themyscira had been sculpted by gods to be a warrior. She'd fought in wars where honor meant something. Here, watching slavers brutalize chained beings, honor was a luxury she couldn't afford. She moved through their ranks like divine retribution made flesh. And when she was done, 17 Zygerians would never raise a whip again. Aquaman hit the facility's water treatment plant, his trident punching through Durasteel tanks, flooding the lower levels, using hydrokinesis to guide the deluge toward the detention blocks. The electronic locks shorted. The doors opened, and 30,000 beings found themselves suddenly, impossibly free. Superman and Flash worked evacuation, Clark carrying groups of 50 in his arms, while Barry made 700 trips per minute, ferrying the weak, the injured, the children who couldn't run. The stolen cruiser couldn't hold them all. They commandeered 6 more ships from the facility's hangars, loading them past capacity, cramming beings into cargo holds and passenger compartments until there was no space left to breathe. Batman and Cyborg hit the control center. The facility's central computer held records, sales ledgers, client lists, transfer orders signed by Imperial officials. Bruce copied everything, every name, every transaction, every being who'd profited from suffering. And he made a promise to himself, cold and absolute. When this was over, he'd find them. All of them. Green Lantern held the perimeter, his ring generating anti-aircraft constructs that swatted down the automated defense turrets, creating shields that deflected incoming fire from the reinforcements Zygeria's planetary government scrambled when they realized their moon was being liberated. 60% charge became 50. 50 became 40. Anakin and Obi-Wan found the Jedi younglings in a separate containment area. 37 children, the oldest 12, the youngest 4. All Force-sensitive, all marked for transportation to an Imperial facility on Nur where they'd be tortured until they broke and became Inquisitors, or died. The younglings stared at their rescuers with eyes that had already seen too much. "You're safe now," Obi-Wan said, kneeling before them, his voice gentle despite the grief that hollowed him out. "I promise." A Rhodian child, maybe 6 years old, looked at him with adult cynicism. Master Plo said that too, right before the clones shot him. Anakin flinched. Obi-Wan's face crumbled, but they carried the younglings out anyway, because promises made to children mattered even when you couldn't keep them. The evacuation took 93 minutes. By the time Imperial reinforcements arrived, 3 Star Destroyers dropping from hyperspace, hangars vomiting, TIE fighters like angry wasps, the League was gone. 7 ships jumping to coordinates Cyborg had calculated, scattered across the outer rim, each one carrying beings who'd been property an hour ago and were now just confused, traumatized, and free. Wonder Woman stood on the stolen cruiser's bridge, still covered in Zygerian blood, her sword finally sheathed. She looked at Superman. "That wasn't enough." "I know," Clark said. His suit was torn in 3 places, blaster scoring that had come too close, reminders that he wasn't invulnerable to everything this galaxy could throw at him. But it was something. "Something," she repeated. The word tasted like ash. like failure wearing optimism's mask. Behind them, Coruscant continued burning, the Jedi continued dying, and Palpatine, no, Sidious, sat in his new throne room, fingers steepled, smiling as the galaxy learned to kneel. The safe house was a forgotten Cold War relic, a bunker beneath a derelict factory in Gdańsk, Poland, its entrance hidden behind rusted machinery that hadn't moved in 40 years. Inside, the air smelled of concrete dust and ancient cigarettes. 37 people from 19 countries sat in folding chairs around a table made from shipping pallets, illuminated by LED lanterns running off car batteries. No power grid, no internet connection, no way for the Empire's probe droids to trace them. They'd met here because nowhere else was safe. Elena Volkov spoke first. Former SVR operative, she'd gone dark the moment the Star Destroyers arrived, pulling assets from covers maintained since the Cold War. She looked like a librarian, gray hair, reading glasses, cardigan. But the Makarov pistol on the table in front of her told a different story. We have confirmation from Almaty. The strike wounded them but changed nothing. They've increased orbital patrols, probe droids in every major city, stormtrooper garrisons deploying worldwide. She pulled up a blurry photo on a tablet. This was taken in São Paulo 6 hours ago. The image showed a city square cordoned off by stormtroopers. In the center, an AT-RT squatted like a mechanical god, its head-mounted cannons aimed at the surrounding buildings. People moved through checkpoints, hands raised, faces blank with fear. They're not occupying, Elena continued. They're subjugating, installing imperial governance structures, replacing local authorities. Any resistance is met with immediate lethal force. Across the table, James Reese grimaced. Ex-CIA, 20 years running operations in places Americans officially denied existed. He'd been in Yemen when the destroyers arrived, had burned his covers and exfiltrated through channels so black they didn't have paperwork. We need intelligence, real intelligence, not satellite photos and intercepted transmissions. We need someone inside their command structure. Impossible, said Colonel Wei Jiang, People's Liberation Army Strategic Support Force. He'd defected when Beijing ordered a stand-down, had stolen classified research on his way out. Their soldiers are clones or fanatics or both. No infiltration vector. Not soldiers. The voice came from the corner, accented English with Russian roots. Dmitry Kozlov, oligarch's son turned hacktivist after his father tried to negotiate a cooperation agreement with the Empire. He was 26, looked 18, and had fingers that could crack encryption like walnuts. Their communications. I've been monitoring their data streams. They're using quantum encrypted channels, nothing we can break directly. But, he grinned, they're also using slave circuits, broadcasting protocols to coordinate their probe droids, their fighters, their ground forces. Slave circuits need receivers. Receivers can be captured. Elena leaned forward. What are you suggesting? A probe droid weighs maybe 30 kilos. Self-contained power source, independent processing, full Imperial communication suite. If we can capture one intact, we can listen to everything they're saying. Reese's smile was wolfish. Where? Berlin. They're using the Reichstag as a regional command post. Probe droids patrol the perimeter every 90 minutes. Predictable routes, isolated segments. We hit one, jam its distress signal, extract it before they notice it's gone. Wei shook his head. The moment it goes offline, they'll investigate. You'll have stormtroopers on your position in minutes. Then we need minutes, not hours. Dmitri pulled up a schematic. There's a subway maintenance tunnel 200 meters from the patrol route. We lure the droid inside, Faraday cage kills its comms, we're underground and gone before they even start searching. And if they track us, they won't. Elena's voice was flat, certain. Because we won't be there. We use disposables. Local volunteers. People who don't know where this bunker is, don't know our real names. If they're captured, they can't betray what they don't know. The room fell silent. Using expendable assets was Tradecraft 101, but saying it out loud still tasted like ash. Finally, Reese nodded. I know people in Berlin. Protesters, activists, the kind of idealists who'll volunteer for a suicide mission if you frame it right. When do we move? Tonight, Elena said. Before they finish fortifying their positions, every hour we wait, they dig in deeper. 6 hours later, in a Berlin alley still smelling of tear gas from the protests that had erupted when stormtroopers occupied the Reichstag, Marcus Adler crouched behind a dumpster and tried to remember why he'd volunteered. He was a student, philosophy, nearly graduated before the invasion, and his expertise with Imperial technology extended to watching them vaporize his roommate during the first orbital strikes. But the woman who'd recruited him, cold-eyed and terrifying, had told him someone needed to do this, someone expendable. He'd said yes because what the hell else was there to do? The probe droid rounded the corner precisely on schedule, a black sphere bristling with sensors and a single red photoreceptor that swept the street like a searchlight. Marcus clutched the device Dmitri had built, a portable EMP emitter, one shot, effective range 10 meters, built from components scavenged from a hospital's MRI machine. His hands shook. The droid floated closer, 3 meters. 2. Marcus pressed the trigger. The EMP pulse was silent, invisible, and utterly devastating. The probe droid dropped like a stone, crashed against the pavement, its photoreceptor flickering once before dying. Marcus lunged forward, grabbed it, heavier than expected, surface uncomfortably warm, and ran. Behind him, storm drains opened. Hands reached up, pulled him down into darkness. The grate clanged shut. Above, stormtroopers arrived 90 seconds later, weapons raised, scanning empty streets. They found nothing, no bodies, no evidence. Just a scorch mark on the pavement and a patrol route suddenly, inexplicably vacant. In the bunker, Dmitri connected the probe droid to his jury-rigged interface, a laptop running custom Linux, cables soldered to the droid's processing core, prayers to gods he didn't believe in. For 10 minutes, nothing happened. Then the screen filled with text. High Imperial. The droid's operating system, its mission parameters, its communications logs, and underneath all that, broadcasting continuously. Fleet-wide tactical updates. Holy shit, Dmitri whispered. He looked up at Elena, at Reese, at Wei. I'm in their entire network. Elena pulled up a chair. What are we looking at? Everything. Troop deployments, supply routes, ship locations. They've got garrison forces in 40 cities, AT-AT Walker divisions staging in Kazakhstan and Nevada. TIE fighter patrols covering every major coastline. He scrolled faster. Wait, they're moving a full legion to Sao Paulo. The 501st, that's their elite unit. Why Sao Paulo? No one answered because they all knew. Sao Paulo was one of the 10 cities Vader had threatened. Garrison forces meant occupation. Elite forces meant something worse. Reese grabbed a radio. Encrypted, frequency hopping, the kind that would take the Empire hours to crack if they even noticed the transmission. We need to warn them. Get word to local resistance cells. If the 501st is deploying, people need to evacuate or prepare for... For what? Wei interrupted. A siege. They have orbital support, AT-ATs, energy weapons. What exactly are civilians supposed to do against that? Fight back. Elena's voice was cold. Because if São Paulo falls without resistance, every other city will surrender. The Empire needs to learn that occupying Earth costs blood, theirs and ours. Reese stared at her. You're talking about a massacre. I'm talking about survival. If we don't make them bleed for every city, every street, every building, this ends with 8 billion slaves. Better to die fighting. The silence stretched. Finally, Wei nodded. Then Dmitri. Then, reluctantly, Reese. I'll make the call, Reese said quietly. God forgive us. In São Paulo, Maria Santos received the message on a burner phone she'd bought the day the destroyers arrived. The text was simple. 501st inbound. Evacuation impossible. Resist or submit. Choose. She read it 3 times, then looked at her daughter sleeping on the couch, 8 years old, clutching a stuffed bear like it could protect her from orbital bombardment. Maria had been a school teacher before. Now she was just another terrified mother trying to survive the end of the world, but the message was clear. Submit and maybe live as slaves, resist and definitely die. She thought about her grandfather, who'd fought in the Araguaia guerrilla war, who'd told her stories about resisting the dictatorship when resistance meant disappearing into unmarked graves. He'd done it anyway, because some things were worse than death. Maria made her choice. She picked up the phone and started calling everyone she knew. By dawn, 3,000 people had made the same choice. They gathered weapons, hunting rifles, Molotov cocktails, improvised explosives, and waited for the Empire to arrive. They didn't have to wait long. The first strike hit an Imperial communications relay on Botha Wui. Flash phased through the facility's walls at a frequency that made molecular bonds irrelevant, disabled 47 security systems in 1.2 seconds, and planted charges calibrated to Cyborg's specifications. The explosion was visible from orbit, a pillar of flame that took 3 hours of encrypted Imperial communications offline and announced to the galaxy that someone was fighting back. The second strike was Wonder Woman's. An Imperial detention center on Kashyyyk where Wookiees were being processed for slave labor. She walked through the front entrance without subtlety or apology, her sword singing hymns of violence older than human civilization, and when she emerged 6 minutes later, 300 Wookiees walked free and 17 stormtroopers would never hold a blaster again. She left one alive, a sergeant with 3 cracked ribs and a message for his superiors. "Tell your Emperor, we're coming." The third was Aquaman's, an underwater weapons facility on Mon Cala, producing depth charges designed to obliterate aquatic populations that resisted Imperial occupation. Arthur Curry stood on the ocean floor 5 kilometers beneath the surface, raised his trident, and called. The Leviathans came. Creatures older than recorded history, massive beyond comprehension, their presence in the Force like gravity wells made flesh. They tore through the facility's durasteel hull like tissue paper. Nothing survived, not the weapons, not the facility, not the ideology that built it. Over 14 days, the Justice League struck 47 Imperial targets across 12 sectors. They moved like ghosts, appearing, devastating, vanishing before reinforcements arrived. Green Lantern's ring dropped to 26%, and he stopped creating unnecessary constructs, hoarding power like water in a desert, but his shields still held when they needed to. Cyborg's mother box integrated with stolen Imperial technology, turning enemy assets into weapons against themselves. Batman operated in shadows, his presence announced only by the intelligence officers who disappeared from secure facilities and reappeared broken, talking, providing the next set of coordinates. Superman became legend. Beings across the galaxy whispered about the man who could stop Star Destroyer turbo laser batteries with his body, who moved faster than targeting computers could track, whose eyes burned red like divine judgment. The Empire classified him as a threat-level equivalent to a full battle fleet. Palpatine placed a bounty on his head that could buy a solar system. They used Dooku's intelligence, every coordinate checked out, every facility precisely as described. And after each strike, Signarel sat in the Safe House's command center and provided tactical analysis, Imperial response patterns, Sith psychological warfare tactics, the 1,000 small ways darkness hollowed you out from inside until you couldn't remember what light looked like. Anakin watched her carefully. Obi-Wan did too. They both recognized the signs, the way her hands trembled when she thought no one was looking, the nightmares that pulled screams from her throat at 0300 hours, the moments when her eyes went distant and her presence in the Force flickered like a candle in a storm. She was breaking, slowly, inevitably, and neither of them knew how to stop it. "She needs help," Obi-Wan said quietly. They stood in what passed for the Safe House's meditation chamber, a storage room cleared of mining equipment, temperature controlled to something approximating comfortable. Professional help, trauma specialists, healers, things we don't have. "She needs purpose," Anakin countered. "Something to fight for that isn't just revenge." I've seen what happens when you lose that." His mechanical hand flexed, reminder of Dooku's blade on Geonosis, of choices made in anger that cost pieces of himself. "We can't fix her, but we can make sure she doesn't break alone." They were wrong. Sinya Rael was already broken. She'd just learned to walk on shattered pieces. The 48th target was different. A Star Destroyer under construction in the Quat Drive Yards, the ISD Executor, destined to become Darth Vader's flagship once Palpatine's new apprentice was fully realized. The intelligence came from Dooku's data, verified by Cyborg's deep dive into Imperial shipyard manifests. Destroying it would delay the Superstar Destroyer program by months, cost the Empire billions of credits, and demonstrate that nothing was untouchable. It was also bait. Batman knew it was bait. His every instinct screamed trap, but the strategic value was undeniable, and they'd run out of safe options 14 strikes ago. "We go," he decided, "but we go smart. Flash runs reconnaissance. Cyborg provides remote surveillance. The rest of us hit fast, plant charges, extract before they can respond." They went. Quat Drive Yards hung in orbit like a crown of steel and ambition. Construction berths kilometers long, scaffolding supporting Star Destroyer skeletons, worker crews numbering in the hundreds of thousands. The ISD Executor occupied Berth 7, 70% complete. Weapons systems installed but not activated. Engines functional but not fueled. Perfect target, perfect trap. Flash phased through the outer hull, mapped the interior in 8 seconds, and felt wrongness crawl up his spine like insects. The ship was too empty. Guard posts unmanned. Surveillance systems offline. Just open corridors and darkness, and the smell of ozone that meant someone had been using Force lightning recently. "Abort," he said into his comm. "It's..." The Force-dampening field activated. It didn't shut down the Force. Couldn't, not completely. But it suppressed it enough that every Force-sensitive within a kilometer radius felt like they were drowning. Anakin gasped. Obi-Wan stumbled. Sinya Rael's knees buckled. And then the Inquisitors arrived. 7 of them. Former Jedi twisted by torture and dark side corruption into hunting hounds for the Empire. They wore black armor and carried double-bladed lightsabers that spun like helicopter rotors, and their presence in the Force was infection made manifest, pain and rage and self-loathing weaponized into precision instruments. The second sister led them. She'd been a Jedi Knight once. Masana Tide, compassionate and brilliant, dedicated to archaeological preservation. Now she was a scarred nightmare who killed with the efficiency of someone who'd forgotten why she'd ever opposed it. Her mask's vocabulator stripped emotion from her words when she spoke. "The Emperor sends his regards." Superman hit her at Mach 3. The impact should have turned her into paste. Instead, she rolled with it, used the Force to redirect momentum, absorbing what she couldn't avoid, and came up swinging. Her lightsaber couldn't cut Kryptonian tissue, but the Force lightning that erupted from her gauntlets made Clark's nervous system seize. He'd never felt electricity hurt before. Here, infused with dark side energy, it burned like his cells were rejecting themselves. Wonder Woman's blade met the Fifth Brother's lightsaber in a shower of spark. Divine metal versus plasma contained by magnetic fields, the collision released energy that warped deck plating. He was strong, genetically enhanced, augmented with Sith alchemy, his species' natural resilience multiplied by pain. Diana was stronger, Her blade took his hand at the wrist. Her shield broke his jaw. But there were 6 more behind him. Green Lantern's constructs flickered, 23% charge, dropping fast, each shield and weapon burning through reserves like throwing water into a sun. He built a maze, emerald walls that shifted and reconfigured, buying time for the others to regroup. The 6th brother tore through it with raw force power, rage given form and directed like artillery. Aquaman fought the 8th brother in the ship's water recycling system. Confined quarters, ankle-deep liquid. Trident against lightsaber in a dance that was more drowning than combat. Arthur dragged him under. The Inquisitor came up blind, disoriented. Didn't come up a second time. Batman vanished into the shadows because that's what Batman did. He reappeared behind the 9th sister, Dowutin, massive, strong enough to crush Durasteel with her bare hands. He hit her with electrical charges, calibrated for beings with redundant cardiovascular systems. She laughed, grabbed him by the throat, slammed him through a bulkhead hard enough that his armor cracked and blood filled his mouth. Cyborg hit her with a sonic cannon that liquefied her inner ear. She dropped Batman. Cyborg caught him, carried him back to the extraction point while his system screamed warnings about structural integrity and imminent catastrophic failure. Flash ran. That's what he did best, ran circles around the 7th sister, vibrating through her attacks, disrupting her targeting, buying seconds that felt like hours in his accelerated perception. But he was tired, starving, his cells burning reserves that didn't exist. When she caught him with force grip and slammed him into an engine housing, he didn't get up fast enough. Her blade came down. Would have taken his head if Signorile hadn't appeared from nowhere. Her own lightsaber intercepting in a clash that sent both women sprawling. Anakin and Obi-Wan fought back-to-back against the 3rd and 4th brothers, their lightsabers moving in the old forms, Sora Sue and Jem. So defense and aggression woven together like muscle memory and trust. They were outmatched. The Inquisitors were fresh, augmented, fueled by dark side rage. The 2 Jedi were exhausted, running on fumes, fighting to protect refugees instead of conquering the galaxy. It should have been hopeless. It was. Until Superman recovered. He emerged from the corridor where the 2nd sister had thrown him, cape torn, suit scorched, a thin line of blood running from his nose, proof that he could bleed, that this galaxy could hurt him. His eyes weren't glowing anymore. They were just blue. Human. Furious. Enough. The word carried weight, not force-enhanced, just will. He moved, not at Mach speed, just fast enough, and grabbed the 3rd brother by the chest plate, lifted him, threw him through 3 bulkheads into the void beyond. The 4th brother raised his lightsaber. Superman's heat vision carved a line across the deck between them. Warning. Boundary. Cross it and die. The Inquisitor retreated. The 2nd sister spoke again, her voice carrying satisfaction despite the vocabulator's flatness. You're everything the Emperor said you'd be. Powerful, principled, predictable. She deactivated her lightsaber. The other Inquisitors did the same. He wanted to see if you could be killed. You can't. So now he knows what you are, what you represent, and he'll adjust accordingly. Tell him we're just getting started, Wonder Woman said. Blood ran down her arm. First time she'd been injured since arriving in this galaxy. Lightsaber scoring that burned despite divine resilience. I'll tell him you're desperate, the 2nd sister replied. That you're using Sith intelligence to wage a guerrilla campaign you can't sustain. That every victory costs you resources you can't replace. And that Count Dooku played you exactly as the Emperor predicted. Batman's jaw tightened. Dooku's working for Palpatine. Dooku's always worked for the Emperor. You think a Sith apprentice just betrays his master without permission? The intelligence he gave you, all real, all accurate, all designed to expose your tactics, your capabilities, your limitations. Every strike you've made has taught the Empire how to counter you. And now, she gestured around the empty construction berth. Now you're standing in a trap that won't kill you, just humiliate you, show the galaxy that even gods bleed. Holographic recorders activated throughout the ship. Cameras broadcasting to Imperial holonet nodes across occupied space. The Justice League, bloody, exhausted, outmaneuvered, displayed for trillions to see. Not invincible, not unstoppable. Just beings who could be hurt, beaten, killed with enough preparation. Palpatine's voice echoed through the ship's comm system, warm and grandfatherly and utterly without mercy. Remarkable. Truly remarkable. You've caused significant disruption, Justice League. Delayed production schedules, freed prisoners, given hope to beings who should have learned despair. I commend your dedication. The warmth bled away, replaced by something ancient and cold. But this galaxy already has gods. It doesn't need more. Surrender now, and I'll grant you mercy. Refuse, and I'll demonstrate why empires last while heroes die. Superman looked at the holographic recorders, at the galaxy watching, and he spoke with Kansas clarity and metropolis conviction. We don't surrender to tyrants. Not here, not anywhere. You want to make us symbols? Fine. We'll be symbols of resistance. Proof that power doesn't justify oppression. That beings deserve freedom even when it's hard, even when it costs everything. Then it will cost everything, Palpatine said. Starting now. The explosions began, not in the ISD Executor, but across Quat Drive yards. 50 charges detonating simultaneously, collapsing construction berths, vaporizing worker crews, turning the orbital facility into a debris field of flame and screaming metal. 40,000 beings died in 8 seconds. The Empire would blame the Justice League. The holonet would show their faces, and the galaxy would learn to fear them. Batman's voice was hollow. He killed his own people. He killed leverage, Palpatine corrected. Every death is your responsibility now. Every casualty proof of your recklessness. You wanted to fight an empire. Empires don't fight wars. They write history, and history will remember you as terrorists who doomed the beings they claimed to save. The transmission ended. The Justice League stood in the burning wreckage of their moral certainty, surrounded by death they hadn't caused but couldn't prevent, and realized the truth. They weren't winning this war. They were in it. And in war, everyone loses something. They didn't return to Renvar. The safe house was compromised, if not by Dooku, then by Imperial intelligence that had spent 2 weeks analyzing their operational patterns. Instead, Cyborg jumped them to the deep core, an unmapped nebula where gravitational anomalies made hyperspace navigation suicidal and sensor technology functionally useless. They drifted in the dark between stars, 7 stolen ships holding beings who'd watched the galaxy learn to hate them. The holonet footage played on repeat. Imperial propaganda networks, now the only networks, showed the Justice League standing amid Quat Drive Yard's burning wreckage, their faces visible, their exhaustion undeniable. The Emperor's voice narrated. Radical extremists, foreign insurgents. They claim heroism while murdering Imperial workers. 40,000 souls. Father, mother, children, dead because beings with unaccountable power decided our laws didn't apply to them. It was bullshit. Complete fabrication. Everyone in the command center knew it. The galaxy believed it anyway. We're losing, Obi-Wan said. He sat with his head in his hands, meditation abandoned. The Force offering no comfort because the Force reflected living consciousness, and right now, most of the galaxy's consciousness wanted them dead. Not the military campaign, the ideological one. Palpatine's reframing us as the enemy, making resistance synonymous with terrorism, and we don't have the infrastructure to counter his narrative. Then we build it, Batman said. He'd been awake for 63 hours, surviving on stimulants and spite. His cowl finally removed to reveal Bruce Wayne's face, haggard, bruised, but carved from determination that bordered on pathological. Cyborg, can you splice into Imperial holonet feeds? Broadcast our side? For about 90 seconds before they triangulate our position and drop a Star Destroyer on our heads, Victor replied. His human eye was bloodshot, his cybernetic components running hot enough that coolant leaked from sealed joints. The mother box in his systems hummed warnings about cascading failures, system degradation, the impossibility of maintaining quantum-level processing in a universe with slightly different physical constants. He was dying, slowly, molecularly, and there wasn't a damn thing he could do about it. We'd need a transmission source they couldn't shut down. Something with enough range to hit every occupied system simultaneously. The Jedi had communication relays, Anakin offered. His mechanical hand hadn't stopped trembling since Quat. Guilt, rage, helplessness, every emotion the Jedi had taught him to suppress now flooding his nervous system with adrenaline and cortisol his body couldn't process. Temple networks spanning the galaxy, but the Empire destroyed most of them during Order 66. Most, Superman said. Not all. There have to be backup systems, emergency protocols. There are, Sinya Rael said quietly. She'd been silent for the last 18 hours, sitting in the corner of the command center, maintaining her lightsaber with obsessive precision. Her hands had stopped shaking. That was somehow worse than when they'd trembled. The temple on Lothal had an off-grid relay, built during the Mandalorian Wars as a contingency if Coruscant fell. It's old, probably not functional. But if we could repair it, we'd have a voice, Wonder Woman finished. She stood near the viewport, watching the nebula's ionized gases swirl like living things, her reflection ghostly in the transparent steel. One broadcast, one chance to tell the truth before they silence us. And then what? Aquaman's voice carried the weight of a king who'd watched kingdoms crumble. We tell the galaxy Palpatine murdered 40,000 of his own citizens. They don't believe us. Or worse, they believe us and don't care. Tyranny's easier than resistance. Safety's more seductive than freedom. We're asking beings to choose the hard path when the Empire's offering easy answers. Then we make the easy path unacceptable, Batman said. We don't just expose Palpatine's atrocity. We expose the entire system, the slave soldiers, the black sites, the corporate collusion, everything. We turn the Empire's propaganda weapon against itself by making the truth so overwhelming that denial becomes impossible. Green Lantern's ring pulsed weakly, 19% charge. each percentage point more precious than the last. I'm almost out of power. When the ring dies, I'm just a pilot in a fancy suit. We need to make this count. Then we move now, Superman said. Lothal, we repair the relay. We broadcast everything we've documented, and we force the galaxy to choose what it wants to be. The journey took 4 days through hyperspace routes that officially didn't exist, navigated by Cyborg's mother box, calculating paths that avoided Imperial sensors, trade routes, anything that might alert the machine of their presence. They emerged in the Lothal system to find the planet garrisoned, 3 Imperial star destroyers in high orbit, TIE fighter patrols sweeping the surface, ground forces occupying the capital city of Capital City with the creative naming conventions that suggested the Empire's bureaucracy had reached terminal mediocrity. The Jedi temple sat in the wilderness, kilometers from civilization, disguised as natural rock formations that predated human settlement. Its entrance was sealed, its power systems offline. The Force swirled around it like a living thing, echoes of thousands of years of meditation, training, sacrifice. They went in at night. Flash scouted ahead, his speed allowing him to map the temple's interior in seconds despite the darkness and disrepair. The relay chamber was 3 levels down, buried in rock. Its technology ancient enough that Cyborg took one look and wanted to cry. "This predates the Republic," he said, running his hands over crystalline circuitry and force-reactive components that responded to biological intent rather than electrical input. "It's not technology, it's art. Whoever built this understood the Force on a fundamental level and integrated it with quantum communication principles we haven't discovered yet." "Can you fix it?" Batman asked. "Can I perform neural surgery on a patient whose species I've never seen using tools from a completely different medical tradition?" Cyborg's laugh was bitter, exhausted. "Yeah, give me 6 hours." He got 4 before the Empire found them. The assault began with orbital bombardment, turbo laser strikes that turned the desert surrounding the temple into glass, scorching the Earth in concentric circles designed to trap rather than kill. Star destroyers descended through the atmosphere, their bulk violating physics in ways that made the sky scream. And from their hangars came dropships, hundreds of them, deploying stormtroopers in formations that suggested the Empire had learned from Kuat and adjusted its tactics. Superman went up to meet them, alone. He hit the first dropship at terminal velocity, tore through its hull like tissue paper, emerged from the opposite side trailing wreckage and screaming soldiers. Turbo laser batteries targeted him. He tanked the hits, energy that could vaporize star fighters splashing against Kryptonian biology that processed solar radiation as invulnerability. He grabbed a star destroyer's communications array, ripped it free, and hurled it through the command bridge of the second destroyer. The ship listed, began falling, its repulsors failing, 3,000 crew aboard. Clark caught it, held it, lowered it to the ground with the gentleness that defined him even when his suit was burned, his cape was gone, and blood ran from his ears from repeated concussive impacts. The stormtroopers watched him set down a warship like it weighed nothing. Some retreated, some opened fire. Their blaster bolts were insults masquerading as weapons. Wonder Woman led the ground defense. Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Sinya fought beside her. 4 lightsabers moving in concert, deflecting blaster fire back at its source. cutting through stormtrooper armor with the efficiency of beings who'd been killing for 3 years and forgotten how to stop. Diana's sword sang. Her shield broke formations, and when the AT-OT walkers arrived, massive, quadrupedal, armed with cannons designed to demolish fortified positions, she stood in their path and refused to move. The first walker's foot came down. She caught it, braced. Her boots dug trenches in the desert sand, her muscles straining against hydraulics and durasteel and imperial arrogance. The walker couldn't advance, couldn't retreat, just stood there, trapped by an Amazonian princess who'd arm-wrestled gods and won. Aquaman hit its leg joints with his trident. The walker collapsed, screaming metal and panicked crew. Batman fought from the shadows, because that's where Batman lived. Smoke grenades turned the battlefield into fog. EMP charges disabled droid support units, grappling lines turned stormtroopers into tangles of confused armor. He moved through the chaos like a ghost, and where he passed, the Empire's coordination fell apart. Flash evacuated the Jedi younglings. 37 children carried one at a time to ships hidden in canyons kilometers away. Each trip took 3 seconds. He made 37 trips. When he stopped, his body was consuming itself, muscle tissue breaking down to fuel a metabolism that violated thermodynamics. Green Lantern held the temple entrance. His constructs flickered. 15%, 12%, 8%, each shield and weapon burning through reserves that couldn't regenerate. But he held, because that's what lanterns did. They held the line when the universe demanded it. Inside the temple, Cyborg worked. His hands moved across crystalline circuits, rerouting power through pathways that responded to force sensitivity he didn't possess, compensating with raw processing power and mother box translation. Sweat poured down his face. Coolant leaked from ruptured seals. His human eye started bleeding from the strain of interfacing with technology that existed at the intersection of physics and metaphysics. The relay activated. Power surged. And for the first time in 3 weeks, the Justice League's voice reached the galaxy. Cyborg broadcast everything: the black sites, the torture recordings, the inhibitor chip schematics, financial records showing Palpatine's control of slave operations, holographic footage of the quart explosions that proved the Empire had detonated its own charges, testimony from freed prisoners, clones with their chips removed explaining what had been done to them. It lasted 97 seconds before Imperial jamming cut the transmission. 97 seconds to show the galaxy a truth it didn't want to see. On Coruscant, in his throne room wrapped in shadows and dark side energy, Palpatine watched the broadcast with eyes that reflected nothing but satisfied malice. He'd anticipated this, planned for it. The transmission would radicalize some beings, drive them to resistance, to rebellion, to martyrdom that served his purposes. But most would rationalize, justify, accept that atrocities committed for order were preferable to chaos. He activated his comm. "Lord Vader, are you prepared?" The figure that answered existed at the intersection of tragedy and machinery. Anakin Skywalker's body encased in black armor, his lungs replaced by respirator systems. His limbs rebuilt after injuries Palpatine had orchestrated and exploited. The voice that responded was no longer Anakin's. It was synthesized, empty. Perfect. "Yes, my master." "Then demonstrate the cost of resistance. Lothal will serve as an example. Leave no survivors." On Lothal's surface, Cyborg collapsed. The relay shut down, its power cells drained, its crystalline circuits fused from overload. He'd succeeded, delivered their message, and his body, human and machine both, couldn't sustain the strain anymore. Batman caught him before he hit the ground. "Victor, stay with me." "Did it work?" Cyborg's voice glitched, distorted by damaged vocabulators. "Did they hear us?" "They heard us," Bruce said. It wasn't a lie, just an incomplete truth. The sky above Lothal turned red. Not with sunset, with atmospheric entry. Something massive descended through the clouds, a figure wrapped in black, in darkness, in the dark side made manifest. Vader landed in the temple courtyard with the inevitability of a funeral dirge. His lightsaber ignited. Red. Bleeding. Wrong. "No," Obi-Wan whispered. He stood at the temple entrance, staring at the figure before him, feeling through the Force what his eyes refused to accept. "Anakin, no." The synthesized voice carried no emotion, no recognition. "Anakin Skywalker is dead. I am what remains." And the real war began. Vader moved like death learning to dance. His lightsaber carved through stormtroopers who'd gotten too close. 3 men dead before they could scream. Collateral damage in a monster's approach. The dark side radiated from him like heat from a star, oppressive and absolute, turning the air thick enough to choke on. His respirator wheezed with mechanical rhythm, the sound of a man who'd died and been forced to keep breathing anyway. Obi-Wan ignited his lightsaber with hands that shook. "Anakin, please, I know you're still in there. I know you know nothing." Vader's blade came down in an overhead strike that would have split Kenobi from skull to sternum if Diana hadn't intercepted with her shield. The impact released a shockwave that cracked stone, sent sand spraying in a radius of 20 meters. Vader's mask turned toward her, eye lenses glowing like embers. "Amazon, I've studied your species, daughters of gods, born from clay and hubris. You believe yourself divine." His free hand rose. Force lightning erupted, not the wild desperation of untrained rage, but controlled, surgical, aimed at nervous systems with the precision of someone who'd been tortured and learned to replicate the lesson. Diana's scream was Olympian fury made sound. The lightning couldn't kill her. Divine heritage provided resistance mortal flesh lacked, but it hurt, burned, made her muscles seize and her vision white out. She fell to one knee. Her sword slipped from nerveless fingers. Superman hit Vader from the side. Not at full speed, not after Quet, not after learning this galaxy's weapons could hurt him, but fast enough that the impact should have shattered ribs and ruptured organs. Vader rolled with it, used the Force to redirect kinetic energy, came up swinging. His lightsaber met Kryptonian flesh and did what blasters couldn't. Cut, not deep. A line across Clark's shoulder. Cellular level cauterization, but actual damage. Proof that Sith alchemy and dark side corruption could harm what turbo laser batteries couldn't. Clark's heat vision lanced out. Vader's blade intercepted, the plasma beam refracting against the lightsaber's magnetic containment field in a display of physics that should have been impossible. "Your power is solar-based," Vader said conversationally, as if he wasn't fighting a god. "I had my scientists analyze footage from your previous engagements. Kryptonian biology processes electromagnetic radiation in the yellow spectrum. Fascinating. Exploitable." His hand gestured. The Force seized Superman, lifted him and hurled him into the Star Destroyer wreckage Clark had grounded earlier. The impact created a crater. Flash moved, Mach 7 through subjective time that made the world freeze, vibrating his molecules to phase through Vader's armor, intending to disrupt the life support systems, end this before it began. His hand passed through Vader's chest plate and hit force-reactive shielding that adapted to his vibrational frequency, solidified at the exact molecular oscillation needed to make intangible tangible. Vader's gauntlet closed around Barry's throat. Squeezed. The speedster's accelerated metabolism meant he suffocated faster than normal humans. "You rely on speed," Vader said, "but speed is meaningless when your enemy controls time itself." He slammed Flash into the ground hard enough to leave an impact crater, then hurled him toward Green Lantern. Hal caught Barry with an emerald construct, 7% power remaining, the ring's light flickering like a dying star. "I've got maybe 30 seconds left," he said through gritted teeth. "Make them count." Batman appeared from smoke that didn't exist 30 seconds ago, grappling line wrapped around Vader's lightsaber arm, yanking with precisely calculated force designed to disrupt the Sith Lord's stance. It worked for half a second. Then Vader reversed the pull, used the line's tension to jerk Batman off his feet, and telekinetically snapped the grapple. Bruce hit the ground, rolled, came up throwing, explosive batarangs calibrated for Force users, detonating in sequences designed to overwhelm precognitive defense. Vader stopped them mid-flight, held them suspended, rotated them 180 degrees, and sent them back. Bruce's armor took the brunt, reinforced plating cracking, impact gel liquefying from thermal shock. But shrapnel found gaps, his left leg, his side, blood spreading dark across Kevlar and ceramic composite. He went down, didn't get up. Aquaman's trident met Vader's blade in a clash that sang with the authority of oceanic depths versus corrupted passion. Arthur was strong. Atlantean physiology, king's birthright, thousands of years of warrior lineage. But Vader was sustained by hatred that had calcified into purpose, their weapons locked. Vader's free hand rose. Force choke. Arthur's throat closed, his lungs burning, his vision darkening at the edges. Sinya Rael's lightsaber intercepted Vader's concentration, yellow blade crackling against red, her form Ataru. Aggressive and acrobatic, the desperation of a broken Jedi who'd forgotten how to fear death because she'd already experienced it. "You are my hero," she said, her voice carrying anguish that survived torture. "When I was a Padawan, you saved my master on Cato Neimoidia, carried him through fire. I wanted to be like you." "Then die like I did," Vader said, and his blade took her hand at the wrist. She screamed, fell. Her lightsaber deactivated, rolled away, useless as the ideals that had failed her. Obi-Wan and Anakin, no, Vader, it was Vader now, faced each other across sand that had drunk blood and burned with reflected lightsaber glow. "I loved you," Obi-Wan said, and his voice broke. "You were my brother, Anakin. I failed you. I should have seen what Palpatine was doing, should have..." "You should have been stronger," Vader interrupted. "Strong enough to let me do what was necessary. Instead, you clung to Jedi weakness, compassion, mercy, love." The last word was a curse. "You made me weak. She made me weak. The Order made me weak. And weakness is what my master burned away." At what cost? Obi-Wan's blade wove defensive patterns, Soresu perfected over decades, the form of a man who'd learned survival by watching everyone he loved die. "Padme." is dust, Vader said, as are the Jedi, as will be everyone who resists the Emperor's vision of order, including your new allies. His blade pressed against Obi-Wan's, driving the older Jedi back step by step. The Justice League, beings of principle, of hope, they remind you of what the Order could have been, should have been. It's pathetic. It's human, Obi-Wan countered. Humanity is a weakness I no longer possess. Superman emerged from the wreckage, blood running from the cut on his shoulder, his suit burned, his cape incinerated. But his eyes still burned blue, still held Kansas sunrises and Jonathan Kent's lessons about doing what's right because it's right, not because it's easy. He walked toward Vader with the inevitability of continental drift. I fought gods, Clark said quietly. Darkseid, Doomsday, beings who could crack planets with their fists. You're powerful, Vader. Maybe the most dangerous thing I've encountered in this galaxy. But you're not a god. You're a man who gave up his humanity for power and convinced himself it was worth the price. And you, Vader replied, are an alien who plays at humanity while possessing the power to enslave worlds. We are not so different. We're exactly different, Superman said. I choose restraint. You chose surrender. He moved. Vader moved. They met in the center of the courtyard. Kryptonian strength versus Sith fury, and the impact cratered the ground, sent shock waves radiating outward, made the Star Destroyer wrecks shift on their ruined foundations. Clark's fists blurred. Combinations that would have leveled mountains, delivered with precision that avoided killing strikes, because that's who Superman was even here, even now. Vader's blade wove patterns of crimson death, each strike aimed at joints, at weak points, exploiting the shoulder wound with Darkseid precognition that turned combat into surgical dismemberment. They fought for 90 seconds. It felt like hours. Clark landed a punch that dented Vader's chest plate. Cracked ribs already damaged by lava and poor surgical reconstruction. Vader's blade opened another cut across Clark's ribs, cauterized flesh and Kryptonian pain tolerance meeting their limits. They separated, both breathing hard, one from exertion, one from mechanical necessity. You cannot kill me, Vader said. The dark side sustains me, hatred fuels me, pain perfects me. Everything you take from me makes me stronger. Then I won't take anything from you, Clark said. He lowered his hands, stepped back. I'll give you a choice instead. Stand down. Leave. We'll let you go. No pursuit, no vengeance. Just walk away. Vader's respirator wheezed. Laughter, maybe, or the sound of a machine approximating derision. The Jedi offered me choices. The Republic offered me choices. All of them were lies wrapped in false compassion. The Emperor offered truth, that power is the only currency that matters, and sentiment is a chain that drags the weak to early grave. Then you've already lost, Superman said, because power without purpose is just cruelty. And cruelty is what the weak do when they're too afraid to be strong. Vader raised his lightsaber for a killing strike, and Cyborg's sonic cannon hit him from behind. The Sith Lord stumbled, his armor's audio sensors overloading, his concentration shattering. Wonder Woman recovered, grabbed her sword, drove it toward Vader's back, and the blade stopped 3 centimeters from his spine, held by telekinetic force that made her muscles scream with effort. Enough, Vader said. His hand rose. The force gathered, not lightning, not choking, but pure kinetic fury, aimed at everyone simultaneously. The shockwave would kill the wounded, scatter the strong, end the resistance in one gesture. Green Lantern's ring flared. 2% charge. Everything left. He created a construct, not a weapon, not a shield, but a perfect sphere that encased Vader, contained the explosion, held it for 1.3 seconds before the ring died completely. Hal Jordan collapsed, powerless, just a man in a green uniform that didn't mean anything anymore. The containment failed. The force erupted. But 1.3 seconds was enough. The League scattered, dragging wounded, retreating toward the canyon where ships waited, engines warming, jump coordinates calculated. They'd lost, achieved nothing except survival. Vader stood in the center of devastation, victorious and alone, the dark side's perfect instrument. And he let them go, because the Emperor had ordered an example, not extinction. Let them run. Let them carry their failure across the galaxy. Let Resistance learn that heroism was another word for futile. The ships jumped to hyperspace. Behind them, Lothal burned. They didn't stop running for 6 days. 6 hyperspace jumps across sectors the Empire had barely mapped, each transition burning through fuel they couldn't replace, each moment expecting star destroyers to materialize from the void. When they finally dropped out of light speed in a system so remote it had a numerical designation instead of a name, everyone was operating on fumes and trauma. The losses were catastrophic. Green Lantern's ring was dead, its emerald light extinguished, leaving Hal Jordan holding a useless piece of metal that had once made him capable of rewriting reality. Cyborg's systems were failing. Mother box processes degrading, human tissue rejecting cybernetic components, his consciousness fragmenting between organic thought and digital logic. Batman had 3 broken ribs, internal bleeding, and a concussion that made his vision split into doubles. Sinya Rail had lost her hand and most of her will to continue. Flash's metabolism was cannibalizing muscle tissue to fuel a body that couldn't adapt to this universe's physical constants. Wonder Woman's shield bore a crack, the first time in 3,000 years that anything had damaged Amazonian craftsmanship. Superman's shoulder wound refused to fully heal, a reminder that he could bleed here, could hurt, could fail. And Obi-Wan Kenobi sat alone in a cargo hold, staring at nothing, feeling through the Force as the Jedi Order's last echoes died across the galaxy. "We didn't save them," he said when Anakin found him. "Any of them. The younglings we evacuated will spend their lives hiding. The slaves we freed are being recaptured. The broadcasts we made, the Empire's already spinning them as deepfakes, enemy propaganda. Everything we did just made it worse." Anakin said nothing, because Obi-Wan was right. In the command center, the Justice League assembled for the first time since Lothal. They looked like what they were, refugees pretending to be heroes, gods learning that divinity meant nothing when mortality was a numbers game. "The Empire controls 94% of known space," Batman said, his voice rough from bruised ribs and exhausted vocal cords. "Palpatine's consolidated power beyond anything we anticipated. The Senate's dissolved. The Jedi are extinct or hiding. Resistance cells are being systematically exterminated. And our broadcast..." He pulled up holonet feeds, Imperial propaganda networks showing their faces beside words like terrorist. Insurgent, criminal, gave him exactly what he needed, a visible enemy, something for the galaxy to hate that isn't him. So we lost, Barry said. He was skeletal now, his metabolism consuming everything, his speed the only thing keeping him alive and the thing that was killing him. We came to this galaxy, tried to help, and just made everything worse. That's what happened, isn't it? Superman stood at the viewport, watching the unnamed system star burn with light that would take 8 minutes to reach Earth if Earth existed here. We didn't lose, he said quietly. We just didn't win the way we wanted to. Is there a difference? Arthur asked. Yeah, Clark said. We saved 37 younglings, 20,000 slaves, hundreds of Jedi. We exposed the Empire's atrocities to billions of beings. Some of them, not most, but some, will remember, will resist, will refuse to accept that tyranny is inevitable. That's not victory, but it's not failure either. It's a beginning. A beginning of what? Diana's voice carried the weight of an immortal who'd watched civilizations rise and fall, who knew that beginnings often looked like endings. We can't fight the Empire directly, can't overthrow Palpatine, can't restore the Republic. What's left? Batman's gauntlet flickered. Holographic displays showing data streams, encrypted communications, the digital infrastructure of resistance too stubborn to die. The rebellion, he said, it doesn't exist yet, not formally. But the pieces are there. Senators who escaped Palpatine's purge. Clone units that removed their inhibitor chips. Civilians who saw our broadcasts and believed them. Systems that remember the Republic before it became the Empire. We can't lead them. We're too visible, too hated. But we can help them organize, arm them, train them, give them the tools to fight their own war. From the shadows, Obi-Wan said, appearing in the doorway. He looked older than his years, grief aging him in ways the Force couldn't heal. The way the Jedi should have operated all along. Guides, not generals. Teachers, not conquerors. Will it be enough? Cyborg's voice glitched, his vocabulary dying along with everything else. In our universe, we fought Darkseid. Armies of parademons, apocalypse itself. And we won because we could hit the problem until it stopped. Here the problem is systemic, structural. You can't punch fascism to death. No, Bruce said, but you can dismantle it, piece by piece, target by target. Palpatine thinks he's won because he controls the visible galaxy. But power isn't just military. It's economic, logistical, ideological. We can't fight Star Destroyers, but we can sabotage the shipyards that build them. Can't assassinate the Emperor, but we can undermine the bureaucrats who implement his orders. Can't liberate every slave, but we can make slavery unprofitable enough that the Empire abandons it. Asymmetric warfare, Hal said, staring at his dead ring. We become insurgents, terrorists by the Empire's definition. We become necessary, Diana corrected. The conscience this galaxy desperately needs. Imperfect, bloody, but present. Superman turned from the viewport. His suit was still burned, still torn, but his eyes held the clarity that defined him, the Kansas farm boy who'd been given godlike power and chose compassion over conquest. Palpatine wanted to break us, make us symbols of everything wrong with unaccountable power. He succeeded. The galaxy fears us now, hates us. But fear and hate are better than apathy, better than surrender. As long as we exist, as long as we keep fighting, the Empire has to acknowledge that resistance is possible. Even if we never win, Anakin asked. Especially if we never win, Clark said, because winning isn't the point. The point is refusing to accept that evil is inevitable. That's what hope is, not optimism about outcomes, but commitment to principles regardless of consequences. Sinyarael laughed, bitter, broken, the sound of a woman who'd been tortured into clarity. You're asking us to die for a galaxy that doesn't want us, to fight a war we can't win for people who call us monsters. That's not hope, that's martyrdom. Sometimes, Wonder Woman said gently, they're the same thing. The months that followed were invisible. The Justice League vanished from Imperial records. No sightings, no engagements, no public appearances. The Holonet declared them dead or fled to parts unknown. Palpatine's propagandists claimed victory. The Empire expanded. But in the margins, in the spaces between Star Destroyers and Senate decrees, things began to shift. A transport carrying slave laborers to a weapons facility crashed under mysterious circumstances. The crew rescued by beings who moved too fast to identify. An Imperial governor on Ryloth disappeared from his heavily guarded compound, later found in a rebel safe house with evidence of his war crimes tattooed across his chest. Clone units reported glitches in their inhibitor chips, surgical precision removal that shouldn't have been possible but left them free to choose desertion over obedience. Shipyards experienced cascading failures. Supply routes got disrupted. Communications networks carried whispered stories about the Heralds. 7 beings who refused to kneel, who fought not for glory, but for the simple, radical belief that freedom mattered more than safety. The rebellion wouldn't formally organize for years, but its foundation was being laid in shadows, by beings who'd learned that saving the galaxy meant accepting you'd never see the gratitude. That victory looked like survival. That heroism was showing up every day to fight battles you'd probably lose because the alternative was surrendering to darkness. On Coruscant, in his throne room carved from obsidian and ambition, Palpatine felt them, distant, diminished, but persistent. The Justice League had become what he'd tried to prevent, not conquerors who could be destroyed, but an idea that could spread. Proof that power could be resisted, that the Emperor was not invincible. He smiled, because ideas could be corrupted too, and he had time. Empires lasted centuries, rebellions lasted years, and eventually, even heroes learned that hope was just another word for delayed despair. But the Justice League had fought gods before. They knew something Palpatine was still learning, that hope wasn't about outcomes. It was about choice. The choice to stand up when standing cost everything, to fight when fighting was futile, to believe in better when better seemed impossible. They made that choice every day. And in a galaxy, learning to kneel, that choice meant everything. The Justice League didn't save the galaxy. They just proved it could be saved. And sometimes, proof is enough to start a fire that burns empires to ash. May the Force be with you. More stories await.